Welcome to Marc My Words, a show that searches for the fork in the road in life, the place where the turning point in the journey of entrepreneurship and life can be found. Let's meet each other at the crossroads on Marc My Words. This episode is sponsored by GrowX Labs. Let's be real, leading a business is lonely. When the big decisions land on your desk, who do you actually talk to? That's where GrowX Labs comes in. Their executive decision support gives founders and execs direct access to a strategic sounding board. Someone who's been in the trenches and knows how to cut through the noise. Whether it's team tension, high stakes moves, or just needing to talk it out, GrowX helps you move forward with clarity and confidence. Head to growxlabs.com/mark. That's GRWX labs.com/mark and book your discovery call. 6 years ago, when I was first starting Marc My Words, I really had no idea and had a lot of doubt about how long I was going to be doing this. I really didn't know. I won't say I didn't think, but I definitely didn't know that I was going to be doing this in 2026. But here we are, and it's been an amazing run. I've had a lot of really amazing guests, and I'll tell you that building myself up back in the day, wanting to get guests on my show that weren't people that I knew, I didn't really know how to go about that. So I went into Facebook podcasting groups and started looking for guests there. Like, I don't know where else I would have gone. And, there were certainly some people that were, they didn't quite make the cut to get on this show. And there were others who did, and then even more who really stood out. And I remember actually the first time, the pre-conversation, when I met Taylor Harrell, and just the amazing conversation we had just booking this show. Like, I knew right there that it was going to be a great episode. And for me, and I listened to our episode driving into the office this morning, just not only to kill a little time, but to refresh my memory of what that conversation was like. I just remember it being an awesome conversation. It was such a long time ago, and hopefully I've become a better host. I certainly feel like, based on what I listened to this morning, I was like, I feel like I've gotten a little bit better at this. And overall, I just feel like there's been a ton of growth on my end and on Taylor's end. This is the first time we've met up like this since that episode. I've kept in touch with Taylor over the years on social media, and we've chatted back and forth. We've talked about doing this, and this is something that I've really wanted to do just with former guests for a long time. I had an amazing episode with Scott Stoltz, my very first guest last year, and now I have Taylor Harrell, the CEO and founder of Be Lively, and let me tell you, there are so many extensions of Be Lively. I mean, we have Be Lively, and I'm just on LinkedIn here, the Lively company, the live, blah, 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 I'm getting tongue tied. So She is the founder and CEO of Be Lively Company and founder and CEO of Lively Foundation, CEO of Lively Event Company, CEO of Lively Co Travel. Um, I can let her fill in the blanks on everything else. That's just some of it. I love seeing her posts about going to all the cool events that she gets to go to and represent. And Taylor's got an amazing story. We'll probably rehash some of the things we talked about back then, but we'll hopefully talk about a lot of new stuff. It's been a long time. There's a lot of things have happened since 2021. Taylor, welcome to Mark My Words. How you doing today?
Good. I'm so glad for our comeback episode. I've been playing countdown, being like, I'm so ready for April.
Yeah, it's long overdue. I have been so focused on being forward thinking and getting new guests on and not being so much, well, let's just rehash everything. But I think it's important to bring people like you back who have just grown so much and is having just so much success and impact on people, especially women. And that is a very important conversation to have. So I love having people on my show who bring something a little bit different
Yes.
to the table. And that is definitely you for sure. And the funny part
Thank you.
about how we got here is because I've been having a little bit of a rough patch off and on of just booking guests and then they're not showing up. Taylor caught one of my venting messages on social media. She was like, hey, let's do that reunion episode. So that's kind of how we wound up here today. And I'm thrilled to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. I think it's just part of like when you get frustrated with trying to figure out like what content am I creating like this week or this month or who should I bring on the podcast, who's a good fit and all these things. It's just like, hey, don't stress about it. Like you know what you're great at and be in your zone of genius and what brings you joy and even just, starting from the basics. And obviously, with
Absolutely.
me returning, but there you go, we're restarting from your beginning.
Yeah, I can't think of a better way to kind of get myself rebooted. I think the last episode that I recorded was probably about a month-ish ago. So that's a long time for somebody who wants to release episodes every week. So I kind of knew that, especially, not to get into my stuff and my numbers, but it's funny how the universe works because I've seen kind of like an uptick in downloads for this show. And I'm like, oh man, I guess this is a sign that I need to keep this show
Keep
going.
going.
I guess that's
Mhm.
why I work so hard.
Well, yeah, because everything will always come back to you tenfold. So, whatever you bring out into the universe, and knowing that God's Spirit Source has your back in doing this, and that's why you have an uptick. So, it makes sense to me.
Well, I feel like I have talked about me more than you. Let's actually talk a little bit about you, because that's the
Okay.
real reason that we're here. So let's just let's see where do we want to start? So let's talk a bit about growth over the past 5 years. Why don't you talk a little bit about just how you feel uh, Be Lively has grown and just fill in the blanks of anything that you've done that you feel like has been a growing experience for you and your brand.
I never expected the growth of Lively, first and foremost. I knew what I was great at, and I knew that my type of service and the delivery would attract those who are in alignment with my brand and just being empowering of each other and no competition mindset, and that we're here to create win-win situations. So, yeah, I'm 25 business awards in, and every time that I get a nomination or an award, I'm just like, oh my goodness. Like, I get so excited because it's like I never once asked for an award or to be recognized. Again, it's just like with me, like being staying humble and just sometimes putting my nose to the grind a little bit too hard sometimes, but I love what I do and I love seeing Lively come together with more great women and showing them that I practice what I preach. And yeah, and so it's a blessing, it really is.
Well, talk about that impact that you're having on women and just like the example that you're setting, because I feel, I guess one of the things that I got from meeting you and doing an episode with you is I feel like I saw a little bit of myself in you. And I think that was something I really realized when I listened to the old episode this morning, is that I know a few days ago on Threads there was a conversation about, what's an old soul. And
Mhm.
I have always felt like I have an old soul, and when you brought that topic up, I was like, something, that's probably another place where her and I have a little bit of a connection. And I think not not that every entrepreneur is an old soul, but I think what you taught me is that there is a link between me and every other guest that I have
Absolutely.
on the show, as far as just that work ethic, that set of values. And um, not only am I curious to hear your perspective on the importance of that impact, but looking back now today, can you kind of identify where you might have gotten all that from, especially from a young age, other than having maybe an old soul?
Yeah, so I grew up with my grandparents. They're now 82 years old and 83 years old. And, I sacrificed all my 20s to start Lively, and I couldn't handle a 9 to 5 with taking care of them and me. And, I had my service dog, Bella, and she was an ESA. So I was like, I'm a new dog mom. I'm taking care of my grandparents. Can't handle a 9 to 5. I need to be my own boss. And like, that's how I met you. So I see things a whole lot differently because, I was only so let's see. I was 20. No, I was 25. I was 25 when I started Lightly. That's right. Again, baby Taylor. so with with having to, ultimately having to rely on myself and keeping a roof over my head and food in my belly and being a new dog mom to Bella and taking care of her too, I had a lot of responsibilities. And I had to be my own cheerleader and I had to be like, how can I work with others to provide for myself and provide for others? And I think it's like when you have that mental shift and you let go of your limiting beliefs, because a lot of like what I was dealing with early on with Lively is that not like impersonating, but like just kind of like, who am I to be teaching others about like marketing and PR and doing events and bringing them to be working with multi-billion-dollar brands? But I was just like, yeah, no, I can do this. If I can do this, you can
No,
do this. And especially that was even before my car accident. And I just had this belief that I can do this and yeah, sky's the limit.
So it's interesting that you bring up limiting beliefs, imposter syndrome, which I think may or may not have been what you were looking for to say
Mm,
there. But that is something that I personally have really identified in myself and have thought about a lot. And I actually, for Podmatch, I did a whole speaking engagement about imposter syndrome. That's how far all of that went, that reflection. And it it's very important for me to get that message out there because I spend a lot of time on like TikTok going live and just meeting people. And there's so many people who don't think that they can do some of the things that like you and I are doing. Like you're running an amazing business, you're putting yourself out there, you're speaking, and I'm doing this, and I have every reason in the world to turn the mic off and
yeah.
leave right now and not do anything with some of the stuff that I was like born with. But for some crazy reason, I found it within myself to believe, but it wasn't always like that. I always believed for a long time that I didn't have the voice or the right look or whatever. And it kind of like limited me in what I was feeling inside, which is that I wanted to do these things. I wanted to put myself out there. And it's important to have people like you and I out there supporting others and letting them know that, hey, if I'm doing it, then you can definitely do it too. And I'll definitely emphasize that in my case, because I'm 170 some episodes into a
I
podcast and
know.
getting
Amazing.
amazing people like you to be on my show, then, you can do it too. And sometimes it just takes an experience or a supportive person to make you realize that you might be holding yourself back from a different type of fulfillment in life.
Yeah, that's very true. I think it's more leaders and founders are starting to rise up to the plate, and I think more and more people are going to start realizing that, we don't have to always do the 9 to 5. And that's where I've been shifting kind of my focus is away from the bigger brands and more into how I can help like the underdogs and showing them that they can do it too and that they can provide for themselves and they don't have to rely on just one income, and even just hosting like your own podcast. Like it doesn't have to be super long, doesn't have to be an hour, it can be 15 minutes. You can have many episodes and that's okay, but you have to honor you and you have to honor your boundaries.
Absolutely. And while I'm on the topic of podcasts, I know that you were trying to ramp up a podcast of your own. Where are you with that? I probably should have asked you before we hit record,
That's
but
okay. Yeah, so I'm bringing back This Is Her podcast. Now that I know, like myself again, with walking the walk and talking the talk, I wanted to know who Taylor was, not just behind the brand, but in front of the brand. And now that I know what my purpose is in life and where I'm wanting to help others step into their leadership positions and becoming like their own boss. So I think it's gonna be more like shorter episodes, not gonna be as long. But that way, so people can see more of who that person is behind the brand. Because I think people kind of forget that even those who are behind billion-dollar companies, that they are people and that they're not robots.
absolutely. And I first of all, I'm toying with the idea of doing one or two other shows that are much shorter. Apparently, shorter episodes are more some people's cup of tea, but I'm way too far into this. This is 45, 50 minute
Yeah.
episodes is what you get on Mark My Words. I apologize to everybody out there, but yeah, how did you like what was the process of figuring out who Taylor really is? Because the Taylor I've known over the years is a fantastic person, and I mean,
Thank
not
you.
that not that that should stop you from growing, because I know I'm always trying to evolve and grow, and that's just a part of life. But what is like clicking now, as far as you said you've found your purpose? What is clicking now that maybe didn't click before?
Before, I think it was just kind of more of I needed to follow, like, this is how you set up your Instagram and your Facebook and creating a group. And like now, this Facebook group of mine that I've been growing, we're over 15,000 members and it's all female boss babes. And even just with that, I was like, oh, okay, that's right. Like, I'm allowed to be the black sheep, just like I am in my family. I'm allowed to own who I am as a person. I can be outspoken. I can talk about like these different topics, just like we were just talking about being the black sheep. Like, I was being told that and I was like, well, my definition of it is definitely different than somebody else's. And that's where my curiosity came into play, and I was like, who is Taylor? Because I have both sides where it's like I can be a hermit and I just want to be in my PJs, and again, like how I built Lively and a black shirt and yoga pants. Like, I am still that girl. Like, I'm still that. And then there are times where, going out to big events, I have to be like, oh yeah, time to be social. Okay, let's go. So I just
Hey,
have those two balancing pieces. And at the end of the day, I'm gonna be me. And just like how I'm always honest with people, I'm not a morning person. I'm gonna need a coffee, and if you want me to get up and to help you, coffee has to be there.
well, I can't drink coffee because I have a sensitive tummy, so I usually
Yeah.
go with a refresher from Dunkin', which is a whole
Yep.
other story. But I'm the same way. I'm not right until I get that little boost of caffeine. And I mean, I think that's one of the amazing things about life today is that, look, there's a time where you gotta put on regular pants and regular shirt, but I could just as easily be wearing sweatpants right now rather than jeans. And believe me, I've done many episodes of this show, uh, you know, with sweatpants on. I just happened to go to the office today, but uh, yeah, that is what I love about just being where we are today. Because I guess another way in which I connected with you is there's no telling what I would have done 20 years ago if I started a business, but I could certainly see myself being in the same place as you were 5 years ago, starting a business today. I don't know if it would have been quite like yours. I don't know what I would have done. Probably the same thing. Who knows? But um, I don't know. I just found it very like endearing, just your perspective, and I love that you're identifying that, maybe you weren't human enough. And I think it's
Yeah.
important to be, just, you know, especially with your following and who you're trying to influence. I think that's fantastic that you're, you're just showing, like, you know, I have had all this success already, and I'm just gonna be who I am, and we're gonna go on this journey together, exactly who we are.
Here we are. Yeah. And also just continue to keep owning about like who yourself, because at the end of the day, we both want to attract those who are right for us. And you know
Exactly.
that whole saying, your vibe attracts your tribe? 1000%. If you want to be around negative Nancy's, be around negative Nancy's. And then you're going to become someone who's very negative, and nobody wants to be around a negative Nancy. So if you're going to speak life and be like, yes, I speak that, you know, I am abundant, that I'm a resilient leader, and you use those I am affirmations and you use the tools to train your brain to think more positive, you're going to be positive. And then you're going to notice, oh, my best friend is like the best cheerleader ever. And then you have it on the other side where it's like, oh, I can learn from him. He's very patient. And I need to work on my patience. And that's one of my weaknesses too. I like things in a snap. And if it's not given to me in a snap, sometimes I'm like, all right. It's not a no, it's a maybe. And I just need to calm down and be more chill.
I'm a little surprised to hear that because you do seem pretty chill. Now, I can be a lot of things myself, you know. I am, I pride myself in being super patient, but I have my moments too. I mean, we all have our moments. So I love that you're just showing that, you know, that human side and you're saying, hey, you know, I'm cranky without coffee. I can be impatient.
Yep.
And, you know, there is a lot of good that I bring to the table, but I have stuff that I need to work on. And I know for me, doing this show, it's taking a long time for me to really like open up more
I
about
hear you.
just some of the things I've struggled with and things I've gone through. Just the idea of not having any new episodes queued up. Like, I don't have, this is the first week that I don't have anything new queued up. And that stemmed from just kind of the frustration that I talked about earlier and just needing that break. Like, uh,
Yeah.
you
You're allowed to
yourself
take time
talk,
out.
yeah, and you yourself talked about being resilient, and I know that that's a topic I've brought up a lot about, especially as an entrepreneur. You're gonna have moments like this conversation looks easy, it looks cool. Well, I don't know if it looks cool. Maybe your end looks cool, but um, you know, it looks like easy, but it
Ebbs
can
and
be hard.
flows. Hmm.
Yeah, it
In
it
life and
can
business.
exactly. Yeah, it can be hard. I do have moments where I feel like quitting, which was like a few weeks ago, and it happens. Like I always tell people you have to dig really deep as an entrepreneur in order to pick yourself up and to keep on going. And I don't know how you would like to define all that as far as like being a resilient leader or just being resilient. But I, for one, kind of find that, look, eventually I just either I am going to quit and hit the stop button and let all those episodes sit for forever, or I'm going to process and work through it, and I'm going to pick myself up because if I don't, who will? Like, nobody
Yeah.
will.
Burnout is a very real thing. And I think it's when you start seeing those warning signs where you're mentally checking out, oh, I'm thinking about vacation, I'm thinking about all these other different things. And sometimes you have to recenter and be like, yes, I am allowed to take this weekend off and I don't have to worry about posting another episode on just updating people. It's the same thing with me updating on Facebook and Instagram. Those are my two platforms I'm on there regularly, and Threads has become like a new thing. I should say, I no longer pressure myself on
That's
posting regular updates. If people want to know Taylor and Lively, everyone knows they can slide into my DMs, and I'm okay with that. But that's also why I started posting even just on my stories. Hey, it's my busy season from now until X, Y, and Z because I have respect for you. I want you to have respect for me and my boundaries, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. that's having healthy boundaries and taking a time out and put yourself on vacation, Mark, because I think that's your next step. And giving you that time off because like you deserve it and you're a good human and you should feel worthy that you can do that for yourself.
Well, that's something I've really been working on because being born with cleft lip and palate, feeling that desire inside to prove myself all the time, you have this voice inside that's like, you haven't proved yourself yet. You gotta keep pushing. You gotta keep pushing, and you just gotta keep going. And it's something that I'm trying to work on. I can't say it's easy, but I've been working really hard to do better and not put so much pressure on myself because at the end of the day, I'm a human being and I need to give
Mhm.
myself that grace and can't be holding myself up to like this real high standard all the time because, as you pointed out, I will and have burned out.
Yeah, I get that. And I just it I would rather you take a minute for yourself and give you that time off than for you to keep on going and then affecting more of your mental health. And that's where I put the full stops where I'm like, hey, take this time off. And that's also just me being a leader and also like a friend to you, being like, hey, I'm seeing these warning signs. I really care for you as a human being. I love your heart. I love your soul. And I want to be there as like a resource. And that's why I also am building my community because it's like I want people to start taking care of other people.
Yeah,
The selfishness and the greed, it's got to stop. And enough is enough.
and this is why you are a recurring guest on this show, because those are all things that I feel like we need to be reminded of. And I know that you're an embodiment of a lot of things that I try to hold myself up to as well. And I do want to mention, I remember last year I was trying to get you to come back, and you were just so busy. I was like, you know what? Just I'm not even gonna. She'll come back around eventually. I'm just
I
gonna
will.
let her be. And I wish that more people kind of like thought that way and were considerate in that way, but that's just not the way that people see things, and it's one of those things where you don't want to be too preachy or be like, you gotta be like me. But it's good to at least put that out in the universe and get people to think about it. And that's that's why you're one of my faves.
Thank you. And when you contacted me, that was during my healing. When I had my traumatic brain injury and had the three near death experiences, and when I had the emergency surgeries, my body went through a lot of trauma. I had to take a sit down and trust me, there were times where I was arguing with my surgeon and my doctor because they were like, no, Taylor, you can't be on the, because of like the lighting and it was triggering my headaches. You're not supposed to have that when you have a traumatic brain injury. And why I wear the blue blocking glasses and to help me naturally like fall asleep because I always had a hard time falling asleep because my mind was always racing. And that's when I learned about having like my dream journal. I have that, and then I just have a journal where I just write whatever I need to get off my chest and be like, I need to do this, this, and this tomorrow. And that's when I started teaching about having the 4 non-negotiable items that you need to do before you go to bed. And that's really given me peace, staying organized, and again, to lay off on the pressure.
I love it. And I also love the concept of the dream journal because now I am taking the whole concept of a dream journal in a completely different and 2026 way.
When?
I started just so I had a few guests last year who kind of like got me into using AI more,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently I use ChatGPT like a Gen Z person, where I use it for like a lot of therapy, like, oh, I'm feeling this way about this. Not that I'm saying that people should rely on ChatGPT for therapy, but it gives me something to like bounce off of it. But um, putting that aside, I started asking it about dreams because I've been having like a lot of
Ooh.
dreams lately, and
Okay.
it's been really interesting to hear what what they, whoever they are, have to say about my dreams and interpreting them. And uh, I don't know if I'm like suggesting or recommending that people do it, but I know it's been good for me just to get that bounce back. And I know I've learned that you definitely have to like take or leave some of the things that they're telling you because some of it is like a little overly logical. But
Right.
I do feel like doing that kind of thing has been helpful to me as well.
Yeah, I mean, yes, AI is going to be ever growing and ever evolving. There is some healthy side to it and there's some warning signs. So, like I always say, take things with a grain of salt, do your own research, verify your sources and where you're getting this information. Because again, when you come from media, you know that we can write our own scripts and how things are going. And I think some people don't even recognize that. So, back to the whole journaling point, ChatGPT is great at what I call bullet journaling, and that's what again helps me get my thoughts down on paper. When it comes to my dreams, I mean, I've been like that since I was a little girl, where my dreams are always vivid, and sometimes it'd be so vivid, I it feels like it's real. And I would talk to my grandmother all the time about dreams because she was just like me. I'd be like, I can literally tell you who exactly was in my dream. I can tell you what they were wearing. I can tell you their personality. And I mean, that's how I even got the name of Lively. Like, yes, I named it after my baby sister and her personality, but everything that I built, even with all the brands, came from my dreams. And I think even more like after with my emergency surgeries, my dreams were more warning me before that and was like, hey, you need to calm down. Um, because October was, Formula One season. There's so much going on. There's ACL, weekend one, weekend two, then boom, Formula One. And that's where I kind of call it the team no sleep. And I also realized before my car accident and even after with my surgeries, there was a lot of unhealthy schedules and just how I was running my body to the basically to the ground. And that was my wake up call. And that's what I was just telling you earlier, like even just to help yourself and watching those signs and having a good support system and someone that you can talk to. I think that's very important. And being an entrepreneur can also be very lonely.
Yeah, no, it can. And I want to make you feel less lonely. I know we've kind of pieced it together here and there about the accident and the impact. Let me give you an opportunity to just kind of talk about like whatever you want to talk about with it and just the way you kind of like rebuilt yourself. And I know that there was kind of like just going through, and I'm going through like threads and stuff and trying to piece together what I want to talk about. But I know that there was like kind of like a eureka kind of moment where you realized that you needed to maybe go about things a little bit differently, and I believe the accident impacted that. So let me give you an opportunity to just talk about whatever you want to talk about.
So with my car accident, let me just say this. I was never that kid that you could limit. I was always I'm ready to go, I'm happy go lucky, I'm very lively. And then my baby sister, like she's exactly like me. She's like my mini me. And with this car accident, it really taught me of who's really in my corner. Who can I rely on? Because I was under so many restrictions. I wasn't allowed to like move my head. I couldn't be on my computer. And, right when COVID hit, I had to put everything online. And that's when I started putting more emphasis on that and less on in person. That's where it was like isolating for a lot of people who struggled during COVID. And COVID was like a blessing and a curse at the same time. So was my car accident. It was a blessing and a curse, but it was more of a blessing because it made me realize that life is truly precious. It's okay to have to be okay. Yeah, you can be selfish with your own time. Yes. And a lot of it also go with your self-care routines and not having to be on the go 24/7. So it taught me to also kind of sit back and be more chill about things because Taylor before that was like, no, like I'm on your butt. Like we need to be moving. We need to be on phone calls. We need to be on every magazine known to man. Like I was very much that. And with the car accident, was like, no. And I think people want to talk about the spiritual side of the car accident. So when you die, you go through this life review where you go from your infant to the age that you die. And you see everything. What friend was talking behind your back, what you did to hurt somebody, um, what kind of acts of service did you do on this planet? What did you do that was good deeds? What did you do that was like, wow, you're such a crappy human for doing that to that person and you didn't consider their feelings? And so you see all that. And I think I was just kind of more of, I always believed since I was little, and I grew up in a very tight Christian home, again, with my grandfather. He was the deacon of the church. So I always knew and always believed in a higher power, and a lot of people like don't have that upbringing. And I knew that I was okay. I was just kind of more shocked when God's Spirit Source said, it's not your time to be here, so I'm sending you back to Earth. And that's when I woke up and the EMT found me and he was like, ma'am, you're bleeding. Like, don't move. If you can hear me, can you blink twice? And it wasn't until like when I was, I guess, I think just when the doctor and when the surgeon was really shocked that all my labs were coming back like she's supposed to be dead and she's alive right in front of us. And it was that shock, and I was in shock. So it was just kind of more of like, my immediate thought was like, oh my gosh, how long was I gone? And like, do I need to notify my grandfather? Because he didn't know anything. He didn't even know about my car accident. He didn't know until like days later. And I became a dog mom to Bella, and I was like panicked about that because I didn't know how long I was gone. I had no idea. And they were like, yeah, you were gone for 7 minutes. And I was like, oh, wow. And so, yeah, that's the gist of
Wow.
the car accident.
Your story, your NDE story, is so consistent with so many of those stories that I see on YouTube. And just, I can't even name uh, who is producing the NDE stories. I know there's some that are like really solid, but um, yeah, it almost makes me want to start an NDE podcast, even though I've never had one. But Uh, it just sounds so consistent with like, I left, I had the life review, I came back, and I like just had this clarity, this different perspective, and probably no matter how hard I try to understand or I think I understand, I probably can never understand just what that feels like or what that means. And it's just amazing just when people come back and they just have this mindset. And it's usually a mindset like yours where it's like, I need to like serve people in
A
X, Y,
greater
and Z way.
capacity.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What an incredible story. Oh my goodness. I obviously I knew vaguely what had been going on, but I had no idea really that it went that deep. So thank you for sharing that. That's uh, amazing.
Thank you. Even when I came back to life, I was like, I was really upset with God's Spirit Source because I was in such a great peace. I was surrounded by white light. I saw like my family on the other side, and I saw like my dogs I grew up with during my childhood. And I was like, dang, I'm back in the real world where there's a lot of egos and different personalities, and I don't know if I like it. So there was a lot of that. And I had to really sit with things and be like, okay, what do I want to do with Lively? What direction do I want to go to? And I just knew like connection all the way. We kind of lost that during COVID. I lost that with my healing because it was isolating, being on restrictions, still having to maintain a brand and appearances and not being allowed to drive. And yes, I still have PTSD, but it's not as heavy. And I take my time on things. And that's why I'm very firm in my boundaries as well.
Yeah, boundaries are very important, and it's one of the many things that I know I've learned more and more as I've gotten older. Just, you have to take care of yourself because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to do your best work. You're not going to be the best version of yourself. Like, for example, if I was not taking a break when I needed to, because I really needed it at the time, this, for all I know, the episode between us might not be happening right now. I could have done really lousy episodes with other people. So, yeah, it
And that's
puts a
okay.
great sense.
Lousy and messy is okay.
I appreciate that. But yeah, I feel like sometimes it's just better to know your limitations, know where your boundaries are, make sure that you're always kind of like putting that out there and setting that, but also have like an attitude where you want to serve people and do some of the right things, which sounds like is what you're trying to do, and not even trying, you are doing it. What am I doing saying trying? You are doing it. So we're kind of
Thank you.
running out of time here, unfortunately. But let's first of all, let me give you a chance to talk a bit about just how people can find you, how they can work with you, and anything else you want to add.
So you can find me on belivelycompany.com. I am on Instagram, Taylor underscore Texas, and I'm also on Facebook as Taylor Harrell and Be Lively Company. So I'm happy to connect with others and those who are listening.
Awesome. Well, I know people are listening because the more I look at my stats for this show, the more I'm seeing those episodes from like 4, 5, 6 years ago, including the one we did. They're popping up. I'm like, yes, finally. So I know people are listening, and they definitely, I mean, with your following, they are definitely rightfully listening to you. And one thing that I want to kind of leave on is just give you an opportunity to reflect on any other, or any other, I shouldn't say any other, any regrets that you might have, anything you've learned that you might want to pass on that you haven't already. Any wisdom?
The I would say a ending note is honor yourself and continue to show up as you, and knowing that source and spirit has your back. And if you need a cheerleader, like, I'm happy to be in your corner.
Well, hey, I can vouch for that because I feel like you have been in my corner since we met, and I hope you feel the same way about me. I know I am
I
rooting
did.
for you all the way, and um, I wish you continued success because you're doing really amazing things, and there's a reason I wanted
Thank
to bring
you.
you back on here because people should definitely get to know you and should be hearing from you because you have an awesome perspective on everything. So thank you, Taylor, for coming back and for
Yeah, thank
sharing
you.
your story. And thank you for being in my corner. I really appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
Awesome. Well, on that happy note, this was Taylor Harrell. I am your host, Mark Schmidt. You just listened to Mark My Words. I'll see you soon with another episode. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to go on a journey with me into entrepreneurship and life on Mark My Words. If you would like to learn more about me and the show, you can find me on LinkedIn at Mark Schmidt or connect with me on Instagram at Nimrod79. Video episodes of Mark My Words, as well as other content, can also be found on the Mark My Words YouTube page. Entrepreneurship can be quite the roller coaster ride. It can be a bit isolating and intimidating, but it doesn't have to be that way. Let's meet here next time at the crossroads on another episode of Mark My Words.